If you're a player that has a history of slicing the golf ball, at one point or another you've probably tried to strengthen your grip to get that club face to close itself up. And while this may not necessarily be wrong, there are some things that can occur that can actually make the problem worse if you are to do that. So to start, strengthening the grip, what I mean by this is going to be getting the lead hand for a right-handed player, the left hand, a little bit more on top of the grip. That's the main hand we're going to be focusing on for this lesson here. So we have to look at what the wrist is going to do, and in particular, if the wrist is cupped at the top of the swing, and that is something that I see a lot of players struggle with, probably one of the most common causes when it comes to hitting a slice. I see players end up at the top of the swing with a position where this wrist is very cupped. That usually leads to an open club face, very steep shaft on the way down. Players hit a lot of very high and very weak shots out to the right, again for a righty. So what we want to do is get this wrist to flatten out, but we have to look at how we are gripping the club to see if it's going to make it easier for us to do that. So if your root cause at the top of your swing is your wrist is cupped, strengthening the grip probably is not going to be the answer, and it's probably going to make things worse. So let's take a look at why. So we're going to get a little technical here, but we are going to look at how the wrist can move when the forearm is in different positions. So when I am set up here, if I rotate my forearm to be in a more palm down position, this is going to be a move called pronation in case you ever come across it. That's basically what we're doing when we are getting this grip a little bit stronger or more on top, is we are pronating or going palm down with that lead wrist. So when I'm in this position where I am palm down, it is not very easy for me to bow or flex the wrist. I don't have much range of motion this way, but I can cup that wrist extremely easy. So if I am in a position where I start to make my grip very strong, that is going to make it easier for this wrist to cup, which is going to make that club face open. So even though you strengthen the grip, it does not guarantee that club face is going to be closed at the top. It makes you more likely to cup that wrist, which is going to open the face even more. So let's look at this the other way. If we go and we weaken this grip just a little bit, or we go a little bit more palm underneath, or we are going palm up towards the sky, this is going to be a move called supination in case you come across it, where my palm is up. So when I'm in this position, it now is much harder for me to cup or extend that wrist, but it's very easy for me to bow the wrist. So essentially what's happening is now that we are in a position where that grip is a little weaker, or that palm is a little bit more up, it is going to make it much easier for me to flatten this wrist out, which you can see is going to take the club from being in a very toe down position, and it's going to strengthen that club face. So this is something where that grip change is not automatically going to make the wrist flatten. You are more than likely still going to need some sort of feel or drill. There's all kinds of training aids and drills out there to help you flatten that wrist out. But if you are in a position where the wrist is cupped and you're slicing it, just saying that I'm going to strengthen the grip to really try to close the face probably isn't going to do you any good. It's very counterintuitive, but this is where weakening that grip actually puts it in a position where, yes, if you still cup, you're going to be wide open, but it at least gives you a fighting chance that now when you're going back, you can flatten that lead wrist without fighting against yourself. Now that this wrist is flat or has developed a little bow in it, it's going to start to close that club face. This can encourage the club to shallow a little bit more as well, as long as you maintain that on the downswing and keep that face nice and square. So if you struggle with a slice, don't automatically assume that strengthening the grip is going to solve everything. You have to look at how that grip is going to affect those wrist conditions.